Well, another breaking news today, a typhoon is headed for Japan. And more alarming for the entire world, it's heading for Fukushima. It could very well affect the nuclear reactor there, which now 2.5 years into the initial problems, meltdowns from earthquakes and floods, is still having problems. Typhoon Manyi has hit central Japan as officials have issued a special warning of heavy rain amidst fears that the storm could go on to hit the crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant. Now, here's the real problem, and this was something that they began talking about a month ago when they were talking about the cleanup attempts and the different risks involved with it, the different techniques that they're going to use and what might happen during those techniques. The real problem are the spent fuel pools, as well as the reactor number 4 that they're trying to remove the spent nuclear rods from. And this could all really, literally hit the fan with a typhoon coming in or some kind of a natural disaster like that. It's a very risky procedure, even without something like a typhoon. Now, a month ago, Reuters reported that containing the radiation equivalent to 14,000 times the amount of energy released in the atomic bomb attacks on Hiroshima 68 years ago, more than 1,300 used fuel rod assemblies are packed tightly together and need to be removed from a building that is vulnerable to collapse should another large earthquake hit the area, or I might add, a typhoon and tidal wave. Independent consultants said recently in their World Nuclear Industry Status Report in 2013, full release from the Unit 4 spent fuel pool without any containment or control, now here's the key, could cause by far the most serious radiological disaster to date. So this is something that could have worldwide consequences, especially for the West Coast of the United States. This is something that we really have to keep track of, and you need to be aware of what you can do to protect your family against nuclear exposure. So keep an eye on this. This is something that really has been kind of pushed to the back as the governments have tried to downplay the risk to the public. But this is a crisis that just keeps unfolding, and especially when you have a major disaster headed for the area, that could be the straw that causes the final collapse. Of course, it could all blow up as they try to remove these control rods, because that's a very touchy, very dangerous situation. A tremendous amount of radiation could be released there. Now, it just gets more ridiculous as the government tries to control more and more of our life. Now, another threat to your health, of course, is ObamaCare, but we also recognize that it's a tremendous threat to our privacy. We see now that ObamaCare is going to be questioning your sex life, of all things. Expect that when you go to the doctor, you're going to get asked questions like, are you sexually active? If so, with one partner, multiple partners, or same-sex partners? And as one cardiologist out of New York said, this is nasty business. He said the sex questions are insensitive, stupid, and very intrusive. That kind of sums up how we would describe government, isn't it? But of course, Obamacare is stupid, insensitive, and intrusive, and so is the NSA. And look at what the people who run the NSA do. I mean, this would be very funny if it wasn't so serious, so dark. We have Keith Alexander, the man in charge of the NSA, has modeled his office after the bridge of the Star Trek Enterprise. Now, imagine this. This is a guy who is on some kind of a power trip, isn't he? Take a look at these pictures of the base there. In his base of operations, a facility known as the Information Dominance Center. That tells you that the guy is on a power trip right there. It had been designed by a Hollywood set designer to mimic the bridge of the Starship Enterprise from Star Trek, complete with chrome panels, computer stations, a huge TV monitor, I think it's 20 feet across, on the forward wall, and doors that made a whoosh sound when they slide open and close. So that's a special, they've got sound effects in their office. One guy said, everyone wanted to sit in the chair at least once to pretend he was Jean-Luc Picard. That was when a visiting congressional delegation came to take a look at the new toys that the NSA was buying to spy on you, buying with your money. Now, Glenn Greenwald is the one who found these pictures that were put out by the company that created this Star Trek set here for the NSA to play with. And this is what he said: any casual review of human history proves how deeply irrational it is to believe that powerful factions can be trusted to exercise vast surveillance power with little accountability or transparency. But the more they proudly flaunt their warped imperial hubris, the more irrational it becomes. You know, it's not a coincidence that we have the Imperial March as Alex Jones's theme song. I think it's amazing to look at this picture of Michael Aquino and Spock. Now, of course, Spock is from Vulcan, and Michael Aquino is a Satanist, somebody who's very high up in the NSA, somebody who has been alleged to be a child molester, someone who was a disciple of Anton LaVey and created the Temple of Set out in San Francisco. And he also wrote a paper, From Psyop to Mind War, The Psychology of Victory. And this guy, who looks like Leonard Nimoy in Star Trek, is one of the top NSA advisors from about 20 years ago. He's retired now, of course, but had very deep roots in Satanism. And as I mentioned before, he was an alleged child molester, but the military got him out of San Francisco. He didn't face any charges, although they paid the victims quite a bit of money. So this is the dark fantasy world that the leaders of the NSA live in. It's something we should all be very concerned about. Well, if you want authentic news as to what happens with this shooter event, as well as what's going on with the attempt to start a war in Syria, consider getting a subscription to Prison Planet TV. It's something you can share with up to 10 of your friends at the same time, and it also helps to obviously support our operation here. Now, we're going to be right back after the break with Alex Jones, and he's going to give us his take on today's events at the Navy Yard.
Now you can watch Alex Jones live at INFOWARS.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
You can also browse the network, the INFOWARS Nightly News,
and over 60 movies and documentaries all together in one place.
You can watch the Alex Jones radio show live as it happened.
So check it out, INFOWARS.com/show.
Many anthropologists and archaeologists believe that before man even discovered the power to harness and use fire, we were involved in agrarian activities. That is, taking the seeds of plants and then replanting them to produce more. The very foundation of our modern civilization and human culture is centered around the planting and cultivation of edible plants.
Here are some of the amazing deals at InfoWars Seed Center at InfoWarsShop.com.
The Survival Seed Vault by My Patriot Supply features only the finest survival heirloom seeds for a robust and hardy garden, even in the toughest times. We also have starter varieties of the deluxe seed packages for fruit, salad, salsa, peppers, medical herbs, and more.
Go to the InfoWars Seed Center at InfoWarsShop.com.
And remember, the revolution against tyranny is growing.